We start off on Cosmic Sapphire, and we are going to be going to begin with to the bottom right-hand corner with the purple Zerg player from the Shopify Rebellion. It is Lambo.
Would mean a lot to him to do very well here, but of course the same goes for this man who's in an absolutely fantastic run in this event. He defeated Maru in the online part of TSL 9. Can he continue his way into the upper bracket grand finals? This is ShoWTimE. Of course, still representing Team Big, like he has been for quite some time.
Yeah, look at the opening, man. I'm going to go gas first straight away, get a little bit of a faster gas roll in here. And that obviously perhaps could mean no scout as well, so really just very eco-focused right from the start. And ShoWTimE will now get the gateway going, and yeah, just little things, right? The preparation in this series is absolutely going to be there. Little differences in builds that could absolutely end up going a long way.
I was thinking a little bit before we got ready to walk over to our casting desk, what do I truly expect from these two? And I think it's going to be pretty straightforward, man. Like, ShoWTimE is obviously going to build a lot of oracles, and a lot of the games between these two, they are going to start heating up at minute 7, 8, or 9. But that doesn't mean that everything that happens up to that point is irrelevant, because Lambo is also a very outspoken guy. You watch any game he plays against a world-class Protoss, if he loses 6 rounds against the oracles, he'll tell his stream, this game is over, I've lost too much. I cannot lose that much. So it may not always be the most exciting part of the PvZ, but it is a very important one, because it's a night and day difference for how these Zerg economies snowball when they lose 1 or 2 drones or when they lose 7 drones.
Absolutely. The early game has to be pristine at this sort of level. Against someone like ShoWTimE as well, he really did for a long time continue to love the triple oracle as well, and just putting some pressure on, getting expanded, being able to go from there. So we'll see if he's going to be able to do that here in this best of 5. We'll see how he's going to open up as the games go through.
Yeah. ShoWTimE definitely a fan of the hero style, or some sort of a variant of the hero style, right? I feel there are so many different ways to play it. And I'm sure that we're going to see Mr. Mauer spice it up at least once in his best of 5, where instead of the casual oracles into blinks only, we might sneak out the charge build. We're going to warp in 8 zealots, try to catch Lambo off guard. Lambo can be a greedy Zerg, but I always think the term greedy Zerg is a bit silly, because to play Zerg correctly, you need to be greedy, right? Like, if you build a whole bunch of units that don't do anything, it's not that, well, you're so not greedy. Like, no, you're actually just playing incorrect, because you're not growing as fast as you're supposed to grow. But I feel more often than not, if Lambo is not totally sure what's happening, he will wait. He won't even spend all the larvae, he won't even spend all the money, so he might sit on 500-600 minerals. Not a mistake, it's just to buy those extra 10-15 seconds to make sure, okay, it is a Stalker warp in, or, oh my god, red alert, it's Zealots being warped in.
Yep, absolutely. Get those preparations going and make sure you're very ready for what's coming your way. This is just a Stargate. We'll be seeing an Oracle 9 times out of 10 here. Chrono boosted out, and ShoWTimE will get that as a starting point, because he's just going to be rallying that into his main base for now. We'll see how explorative it wants to become. Otherwise, Lambo just doing everything for now, as expected, right? Very much so just saying, well, I don't need lings, so I will not make lings, just drones, drones. Ling speed finishing, maybe we make a few to poke around at that third base, but I mean, nothing wrong with just making drones.
Maybe on like one of the smaller maps, like a waterfall or an inside and out, there is a chance that Lambo does spice it up and he goes for +1 melee, and he's going to make a lot of links to at least deny that Nexus once. But I think doing that on a map like Cosmic Sapphire, it's almost suicide. Because imagine if the oracles are in position, you stay there with 20, you can have 30 links, you're still not going to kill it. And even if you then do somehow get a cancel, you're still going to be behind, because you have to make them so early since this map is so big. Yeah, I'm not expecting any fireworks here in the first 7 minutes, but like we said, it is very important for Lambo that he doesn't lose too many drones. It's almost inevitable that you're going to lose 1 or 2 if the Protoss player truly wants that, but there's a night and day difference between losing 1 or 2 or losing 7 or 8. And we also know that Lambo can definitely be an emotional guy, right? So getting off to a clean start in the first game of a very big best of 5 is very important for him.
Try to cancel ban and finish from ShoWTimE, and it is going to be straight to blink. 3 extra gates, no forge alongside that, so a little bit different as our oracles are going to loop around. First time they'll be trying to find damage here. The queens have been well positioned so far. We will grab 3, 4. I don't think he got the 5th one there, because he is just going to go out to the corner. It's going to be ShoWTimE. Pretty happy with that. Wow. He did get 5 drones overall. Wow.
Yeah, 5 drones, and actually they're both pretty healthy, right? Like, I think most Protoss players would even say, okay, even if one of the oracles goes into the deep red, if I can get 5 drones before the 5-minute mark, I'll take that actually. But these oracles are still healthy, which means that ShoWTimE could come back for seconds if the queens are out of position one more time. Great Oracle movement by Mr. Mauer, and that is not quite the start Lambo was hoping for. It's not game-ending damage, of course. It takes a little while before the Stalker follow-up is truly there, but Lambo really can't allow that to happen too many times in this series.
I mean, Stalker weapons are starting, Blink is approaching, and we're going to get to that point where these first Stalkers will poke across the map at the very least and see what they can do. For now, it looks like they just want to clean out that watchtower. And Lambo is finally going to have to start making some units, but even around of Lings right now isn't brilliant because you've got the Oracles protecting the Stalkers, so yeah, this could be a little scary. Lambo, of course, at least aware as, oh, this Ling misses it, but he did just lose a Ling on the watchtower.
I think we're going to build a gateway here as well.
Yeah.
Uses like a bit of a launching platform. I often feel that Skillers was the only one in Europe who was doing that a lot for quite some time, and a lot of the other pros players were like, that's a bit too big of an investment, but seems to be becoming more and more popular. We don't have shield battery here in the natural, and I don't know if the warp gates are able to warp in something. That's going to be really close. Oh my goodness. That pro barely saving the day, because if all of these links make it into the main base, of course ShoWTimE is going to clean that up, but it's just going to take a long time, and it's going to stop the momentum that obviously he wants to create for himself with his Stalkers on the other side of the map. Well done by Lambo.
Yeah, really nicely done by Lambo, putting some pressure on. Unfortunately, he doesn't get through there, but very nearly, as now he will have these few Stalkers to contest. And of course, now he's about to have +1 melee, so those few extra seconds just makes life that much easier. The Stalkers, they just want to camp that creep spread, man. Not let it go any much further forward. Have the stasis ward there in case you need to fall back a little bit. Just those backup plans, keep the Stalkers safe as we get more numbers ready to go.
I kind of like that Lambo took the base at 6 o'clock. Yeah. Rather than taking it at 3 o'clock. And this is actually a lovely little surround too. Lambo's been very active with these links, and there is not always something that you can find with them, but just grabbing a depth here, forcing out a couple of warp ins that ShoWTimE would much rather have at the front. This is a really good play, and it's not a big investment at all for Lambo. He already had these links. He's just doing a very good job in making sure that they still represent some value. The ShoWTimE probably feels like, man, you're kind of annoying me at this point. I feel like I was the one with a slightly better start. The Banelings are morphing. They're not quite ready yet. And this is more than just a couple of Zealots, Waddy. This is a very decent amount of Zealots. And Lambo could be in a bit of trouble here.
Yeah, the Banelings actually across the map, I believe. So the 4 in the corner here are going to take a little while to finish up. And this is really bad. A few Lings in the back get caught in the Stasis Ward. Zealots can keep on trading. And ShoWTimE's just finding so much value with that +1 attack, hammering away. Finally some Bane show up, but to hit what, a couple of Stalkers. Some extra Banes from the right side, but reinforcements are here. Now these Banes, no Baneling speed, just getting picked off.
It's going to take quite some time before +2 melee will ever kick in, and this is normally where another round of warp-ins becomes incredibly problematic to deal with. Lambo's cranking out as many units as possible. There are still a couple of Queens there that can buy a little bit of time, and ShoWTimE doesn't have too many Zealots anymore. The link count is still scary enough that ShoWTimE knows that if he ever gets surrounded, he's going to be in serious trouble. We have the Oracles still. There they are. They do show up. They activate Pulsar Beam, tiny bit of a Stasis Trap as well. Stalkers are expensive units though, and as long as Lambo grabs a couple each and every single time, this is not too problematic for the German Zerg. And once +2 melee finishes up, then he should actually be able to get better trades. But I have the feeling that he's not quite out of the woods just yet. ShoWTimE is going to try his luck one more time.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like he's going to let up too much. He is going to start a bit of stack defense back at home. He may have +2 melee though by the time we go again. Little link counter looking for 5th base. We'll find a probe, slow that down at the very least. So Lambo finds some value in a moment that he has, but well, the Zealots on the left side, these Banes at least should be able to help clean this up. Good fight for Lambo. Yep. Cleans these Zealots easily. The Stalkers now, well, very deep on creep. They have to be super careful because if the Lings can get back onto these, they are in some serious trouble. They did get out just about in time. The Zealots do find the run by to the far right, but some other Zealots back on the bottom left, so ShoWTimE trying to be everywhere.
And ShoWTimE is just doing a phenomenal job right now in forcing out non-stop trades, so this is where that economic advantage he has created for himself is really starting to kick in. It's a disaster when you have 85 pros, but you're getting smacked in every single fight and you're just not killing anything, and the Zergs are getting closer and closer to getting maxed out, and at one point you know that you're on the receiving end of taking damage, but that is not happening. These are trades, left, right, and center, and obviously the trades will always favor the player with the better economy. ShoWTimE still has a lot of Stalkers here. These Oracles have been alive since minute 3 or 4. Would be awesome to see how many kills they've gotten so far. Can we take a look at these two Oracles in the map? Who I don't know who's in charge. We have a few more Zealots. Lambo got scared by those zealots, I believe, in the bottom side of the map. This happens to me as well when I'm at home. Like sometimes you suddenly hear something, you're like, whoa, whoa.
Yeah.
Where did that came from? It's just like one shot of a stalker and like you jump up in your chair.
Zealot Stalk's going to keep coming through. A couple of these Banelings going down. And again, just, I mean, without Banelings, you can't crash through the Zealots. The Lings aren't going to trade well enough. And you're 24 workers behind. You need some good trades here as Stalkers and Zealots just keep on flooding through. And it looks as though there's going to be plenty.
You need cleanups, right? Like you need absolute cleanups to be able to hang in there in the game as the Zerg. And Lambo's unfortunately not able to find these cleanups. He's picking up a couple units here and there, but he's losing more queens, he's losing more drones, and just like that, after 10 minutes and 15 seconds, Mr. Mauer takes the 1-0 lead. He looked pretty convincingly there, Marty.
Yeah, that was very, very convincing, wasn't it? He just looked good, man. He put on some pressure. The first Oracles did pretty well for him, getting 5 workers, very healthy. And we saw how important those Oracles were later in the game. They continue to get so much done. And yeah, I mean, he just kept on pressuring. And it just felt like at this one moment specifically, Lambo was so unprepared, right? Like he just, the Banes that were morphing were the top right Banes. So the ones down here didn't start until even later. He just wasn't quite ready for ShoWTimE to then suddenly be attacking. And I find that surprising because ShoWTimE was always there threatening. Lambo just didn't take it seriously.
I don't think Lambo expected that amount of zealots that early on. I think he expected just a few more stalkers, a very big stalker bow, and he's like, that's very annoying because I know that I can't get this around, but I'm just gonna dance. And then suddenly it's not just a couple of stalkers that obviously have a lot of potential but not crazy DPS. No, we're dealing with 12 zealots at half +1, half charge. And those are zealots that do just rip through anything they can get their laser swords on. Yeah, Lambo was just a little bit too late to have a proper answer for those, and by the time he finally cleaned it up, he was kind of fighting an uphill battle. He was 12 workers behind, and there wasn't one moment where he got an amazing victory. He was getting some trades, but ShoWTimE is good with trading if he's the one who's got the better economy, and obviously his stalker ball is never dwindling. Like, yeah, he lost a couple, but every single time he lost 3 or 4, he just wiped in more. ShoWTimE played very well, and Lambo, well, definitely has to go back to the drawing board, and I'm curious to see if we're going to have a different game plan here for Game 2 on Moondance, a map that a lot of Protoss players are quite fond of in this map pool. But let's see what the German mastermind has in store for us, representing the Shopify Rebellion, down 0-1. This is Lambo.
Taking on in the bottom right-hand corner, taking that 1-0 lead, it is a yellow Protoss, ShoWTimE. I think we absolutely see something a little bit more crafted here from Lambo, right? It's the first map pick of ShoWTimE, so I'm asking Hearthstone specifically for some games on this map to test out the strategy one more time before, so whatever it may be, there's definitely something planned.
Yep, Lambo's been multitasking a little bit over the last few days, between limping after his football session to still doing a lot of analysis here, being part of some of the meetings that we have as broadcast team. And then at one point he's like, all right, if anybody needs me, tell them I'm in the practice room. I'm going to get ready for my own tournament. So he's definitely been getting in a very decent amount of games. And ShoWTimE, yeah, he was here even on the days that he didn't have to be here, but he said, no, it's fun. Keep an eye on everyone, play a couple games. Mr. Mauer seems to be in excellent spirits.
Which is fantastic to see. It's good to see ShoWTimE up with the potential to be top 3 again in a tournament, right? Just getting those deeper runs. It just feels like it's been a while. It feels like he kind of dropped out of that top 4 of Europe for a little while. And once again, like I say, looking to be back there.
Not too long ago, I was at an offline event. I think it was Valencia. I had a discussion with a couple of the European pro gamers, and multiple of them asked me, who do you think is the best Protoss in Europe if you don't include Max Packs? And I was like, well, I'll probably still give it to ShoWTimE. And a lot of them were like, no, Skillers is better right now. And I was like, well, I was like, I think they're very different. I think they excel at different parts of the game. But a lot of people were kind of in agreement that Skillers started to become a more solid player than ShoWTimE and started performing at a higher level. Well, I have the feeling that ShoWTimE has definitely set the record straight for the ShoWTimE believers over the last few weeks, because this run in this tournament, and especially that victory over Maru, I mean, that's something I think we'll be talking about for quite some time.
Absolutely. We'll be coming back to that for a few events to come at the very least.
Who was the other player he beat? I'm drawing a blank, but I know it was a good one too. Like, this entire run by ShoWTimE has been 6 so far.
I can't remember, but I'll find out in just a moment.
Oh yeah, he beat Neep. But I think even in the round of 32 he had a tough opponent.
Yeah, I agree.
Was it?
You got one more guess.
I don't know. Elaser, okay. Yeah, I mean, Elaser is damn good too, right? He's here. TeamLiquid. What is Miko doing actually?
He just showed up. Fun.
Unbelievable. He's walking around, running around. in football and in Utrecht probably, trying to get those Strada runs in. Looking good. What a guy.
Yeah. I know, I saw his like Instagram stories like, yeah, I get on the plane to the Amsterdam. I was like, what for?
Yeah, I was like, oh, I wonder what they have planned with Miko.
Yeah.
Apparently, absolutely nothing. He's just here to have a good time.
Yeah, I thought he was going to like help out with the analysis or something, but no, just having a good old time.
Must be good to be laser, right? So it's an Oracle once more here for ShoWTimE. And the two adepts obviously trying to be annoying. This is also something that you always have to respect as a Zerg. Two adepts, of course, one-shot workers. But even this is actually very good for ShoWTimE, because you lose a bit of mining time. One of the drones morphs into an Evo chamber, so you burn a couple of minerals there, and then he still gets that drone kill.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's one of those moments where the adepts, like, if you just lose the mine time, whatever, but get a drone on top of it all, and those adepts are still back home now, able to do as they wish. I'm just going to get a spore down here, protect that drone as well, as Lambo trying to minimize losses with this Oracle showing up, and obviously Oracle 2 popping, so these are only going to get more dangerous over the next few moments. In this game, we go to Oracle number 3.
We're going to take a look at the first-person view of Lambo. I mentioned historically it's 38-12 in series in favor of ShoWTimE, but that's not just over like the last 10 years. If you look at their last 8 series, ShoWTimE has won 7 out of the 8 encounters with Lambo. And those are numbers that do truly start to matter, as we do have a first misclick of the series, if you ask me, from ShoWTimE there. Got a little greedy. We've all been there as Protoss players where you're like, shit, and then sometimes Oracles can be a bit derpy. He still got 4 drones, but losing an Oracle, that's something that's going to make Lambo feel pretty good.
And there's Lambo spotting the extra Oracle too, so fully aware of how much Stargate units have, or how many Stargate units have been produced here. And that's obviously something that helps you make a judgment call further down the line, as, again, ShoWTimE just continues into what will be a Stalker setup. With the Oracles coming back in, so here's the 2 of them again. 3 drones this time, and this time,
a lot of damage.
Yeah, they get out, but yeah, damage. And we just saw how important the Oracles were previously.
Yep, so in the last game we kept 2 Oracles alive for the entirety of the game, and we never got to see how many kills they had, but we can only assume that it was a solid 12-15. There's a Spore Crawler there too. ShoWTimE is definitely getting a bit reckless here. Feels like he sent a low HP Oracle back, and he's like, well, Lambo will never expect me to go back with the healthy one all by itself, but Lambo did expect that. I'm definitely feeling this defense, even though throughout the entire game it's also been 6 or 7 drones. It just feels that this time around Lambo actually has something to show for the drones that he lost.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, 1 Oracle down, 1 Oracle hurt makes a big difference, as you're just getting that creep spread out, obviously. The extra Oracle means the other couple things are a bit later to come by, so the Blink and a Stalker count, so you can count your creep a bit further out already. As you do see ShoWTimE, just going to pop down his 4th base, and it's just going to be coming through. And yeah, just looking pretty good.
+1 melee close to finishing up, but until Lambo really has the economy that he's looking for, I don't think he's going to throw away too many units. And trying to get lucky with slow bailing. Sometimes it's nice as like an offbeat attack that your opponent really doesn't expect, but all of these things are relatively big investments, and at this level you can't just casually morph 8 slow bailings, not get anything done, and expect to be fine against the counterattack. This is also very good stuff. I do feel like in the previous game, not many things went Lambo's way, but that original set of links that he was running around with, where he almost got the run buy-in through the natural, then he found a pylon, he found an adept. I thought that was all pretty good play by Lambo.
Yeah, I mean, that was very close to being devastating for ShoWTimE, because if that Stalker goes down and the Lings get in, well, then you've got to warp in there. That takes so much more time. You're guaranteed to lose a few probes across 2 mineral lines. Here comes ShoWTimE. Starting to get set up with his numbers, clear out a little bit of the creep spread and give himself the chance to sit outside the front of the base, as Lambo, Hydra 10 is already finishing, so straight
really
through
solid,
the Link Bait Hydra, and even more of these probes going down.
Super solid stuff, and there was only 1 sentry there too, so ShoWTimE had to turn around with the Stalkers, because if that shield battery gets surrounded, then you're going to lose a few more workers. You might end up losing the sentry too. This time around though, we have to mention the Hydra then, right? He is working on Hydra speed, so he's preferring Hydra speed over Grooved Spines. I'm actually a bit surprised by that, because I have the feeling that Lambo's going to be the defender regardless. Yeah. You can't really attack in this phase in the game. I feel like normally we see them go for upgrades the other way around. What do you make out of that?
Absolutely. Speed is for getting across the map and fighting. Range is for sitting back and defending, right? You know, you stay a bit safer back. Yeah, Speed definitely seems like he wants to be the aggressor, which again, like you say, you just don't really get to pick that. And I feel like he definitely got Bane Speed for a while as well, because that's quite late to finish. And if ShoWTimE hits and you could have had fast Banes, I feel like that would have been preferable as well.
one queen does fall. Stalkers, I think for a split second, they're like, shall we blink forward? Now we don't exactly know where the Zerg is. The stasis trap actually working against ShoWTimE there, because those Lings are functioning as a force field. The Stalkers already used their blink ability, so it was on cooldown. That was a solid 4 Stalkers, or 5 even, going down.
Yeah, that was definitely more.
What? Only 2?
No, what? Okay, I was convinced there was a bunch that went down. That looked terrible. He blinked back, got blocked by the Lings. All the Lings were there fighting. I thought he lost like 4 or 5 as well.
Protoss things, man.
He Protoss.
Oh, that's crazy. I cannot believe only 2 Stalkers went down there. That definitely looked a bit more problematic. Lambo does have a pretty big army. Slow Banelings gonna make the difference, but Baneling speed is very close to finishing up. Hydras on creep are very fast, but Hydras without their range upgrade against this many Blink Stalkers. I mean, Lambo often jokes about how the Hydra is not exactly his favorite unit. From the back of strong economies and in overwhelming numbers, they can definitely do quite all right. And Lings with +2 is something that ShoWTimE's gonna have to take very, very serious. Like, I think it's crazy he doesn't have a shield battery right now in his natural, by the way. It's like such a tiny investment, but it can potentially save the game for you. As the Stalkers are a bit out of position, and Lambo with the nice little swapperoo move around gets on top of a couple of these static defenses. The Lings getting on top of the probes. You have a couple of Banelings that are gonna turn around and try to connect with Stalkers. They're not quite sure what they want to go for. I think in the end they want to go for all the probes. Man, these Banes have been indecisive as hell.
Yeah, they've been one way than the other. Now they're going to go for these probes here. They do have +2 melees. It doesn't take much to knock them down. More Banes coming in on the other side. They're walled by the Stalkers. I mean, that's less efficient for Lambo and ShoWTimE. 17 probes down, sure,
so
but
close to each
has
other,
so many units, and you can go.
Yep.
There's no Banelings ready. There's no Hydras left.
There are barely any Hydras as well. 17 workers going down obviously is painful, but ShoWTimE is doing a very good job in rebuilding those immediately. Just a couple of Lings and a couple of Hydras and Queens are good enough to push these Stalkers back for now. And that's actually a decent amount. This time around it was 4 or 5 Stalkers body, I'm damn sure.
Yeah, we counted properly this time. We saw those Stalker bodies falling to the floor. Gonna see a drone cook coming back. I mean, ShoWTimE can still keep up the pressure. He's got Zealots reinforcing too, but now at least there should at least be a few Banelings to help push the Zealots back by some time, and I don't think ShoWTimE really has the numbers to stick around here. Tries to get off creep. Will Lambo want to chase even further? Looks like he kind of does. ShoWTimE blinking back still. Still keeping the Zealots back too. Very important in that fight.
We didn't truly talk about ShoWTimE's positioning of that. Well, I guess it's a 5th base, but it kind of feels like a 4th base, right? Because the pocket expand is not truly a base. I know we've seen this a couple of times over the last few weeks, but it feels kind of crazy, right? To be expanding that close to the Zerg.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously why he's being caught a bit out of position right down the ramp. The Zerg's kind of coming from those different directions. So that run by goes nowhere at all. And of course, we're still just warping in more and more Stalkers. For now, that might be okay, but there's always that possibility that Lambo feels like he can sneak some extra tech in.
There only one cannon there. There is a sentry. Sentry could always drop a force field, and one force field is good enough. And it may seem silly, but that one Baneling would have easily taken out 6 or 7 workers as soon as it connects. +2 melee is an amazing upgrade for the Zergs. I mean, Lambo was obviously quite happy with how that fight went in a way, at least the follow-up of the fight and all the economic damage, but he does need a bit more, right? Because Lambo doesn't really have light at the end of the tunnel. We're working on +1 missile attacks, but Lambo needs more than he's been getting so far. He's going to try to completely break this setup this time around. That shield battery overcharge is, I want to say, fantastic. It does go down in the end, but it already forced Lambo to turn around for a split second. All of this has gone quite well for Lambo, but I still think he needs more. He needs to break a base.
Because he's not going anywhere with his army. It's more of the same. And I know it's for ShoWTimE too, but ShoWTimE's army typically can do that. Yeah, I do agree. He needs to break a base, and these 15 workers, they die, and less than a minute later, they're back online, right? So
it's
that
5
doesn't really go anywhere.
at a time. Right? Yeah, we're building 5 probes at a time. The Protoss is now becoming the Zerg, where you can build a whole bunch of workers at once. Lambo, I think, knows it too. Now, of course, he's got an economy, and he can definitely max out one more time. There are plenty of moments to find damage, especially this natural, perhaps, as we have a couple of Banelings going through. Stalk is doing such a good job in blinking back, soaking up those Banes as well. Lambo at the same time trying to get lucky in the center of the map. +2 melee, +1 missile attacks. It's not bad, but ShoWTimE already at +3. I feel that ShoWTimE is just loving life, and the more static defenses Mr. Maurer is going to be able to get down, the less effective this Hydra Ling Bane army of Lambo will be.
Unfortunately, those Banes morphing in the front. ShoWTimE will get a couple of them. We are going to attack in from 2 sides. Let's see if this can find anything. Batteries will do what they can. Love the battery. Supercharged in the back. That's the safest one of all. Probes are going down, but we've said it before. That doesn't matter. Take some of the Banes out of the equation and let your army overwhelm as ShoWTimE pushes this back and can blink and chase for a while too. Banes turning into Stalkers. Yeah.
That's always a really bad sign as a Zerg when the Protoss that's on 5 or 6 bases actually blinking forward and is chasing you and you don't have a bank. Now maybe that was a bit over-eager by ShoWTimE because Lambo's actually finding a slightly better trade this time around, finding a decent amount of Stalkers. We have a lot of extra links. It's kind of do or die for Lambo right now. And I want to say I don't think he's gonna do it, but I gotta say that second part of the fight went a lot better than the first. We did fire up +2 missile attacks, but that's also not the game-ending upgrade. Like sometimes you have lurkers on the way with Vipers or some crazy well-upgraded ultras. Like that's the kind of stuff that terrifies Protoss players, but just slightly better upgraded Hydras. Lambo still needs more. It wasn't bad, especially the second part of the fight, because ShoWTimE definitely got a bit over-eager and carried away with that forward blink, chasing the army down. It's still not quite good enough. But ShoWTimE does need to be careful, because at one point his army supply became very tiny.
No, there's a moment where it's like, man, just some links here could do well, but they just weren't there yet. So he actually managed to get a few more Hydras than maybe he should have been able to get. Bling Hydra coming around the right side. Stalker's already blinking away, trying to get away from this group of Lings, which are going to come running forward. A little surround there on these Stalkers, which have already blinked, so they had to wait a little while longer. Cannon soaking up some of the damage. A few probes going down again as the reinforcing Stalkers get here, trying to stay clumped up. Just so many Lings right now are working wonders against these Stalkers.
Yep, ShoWTimE has 1k gas as well. How would you feel about ShoWTimE switching up his army comp? Or do you don't think that's up to him because you think it's fine as long as he just takes good fights?
Maybe with that gas, just dropping Archives, get a couple Archons in. Against an army like this, I think it's always going to be good. I know it's not as mobile, but he's been the defender for a long time too, so a few Archons could just sit there and soak up some Lings coming in. I think they'd work fantastic.
68 probes for ShoWTimE against the 70 drones of Lambo, where Lambo probably feels like, maybe I can get one good fight away from these cannons and batteries. Maybe I can finally take out this Nexus. They've been battling over this base, over this location for the last 6 to 7 minutes. Will we have an overcharge? There won't be an overcharge. There won't be any attempt, or at least not a real attempt to save that Nexus. So Lambo does pick off finally a very important base. And he's got a 40 army supply lead, and if these Banelings connect with all these probes, because those Stalkers I don't think are going to be able to save the day. We're going to split the workers up a little bit, but there are so many Banelings that one of them should always be decent. We got 12 in total, and what a game. This is where PvZ is so fun, right? Like the first 6-7 minutes, like, okay, Oracle's floating around, we get it. Let's see who gets the better trade, but the last 6-7 minutes in this game have been spectacular.
Yeah, they have been great, as we're going to see some of this tag defense going down without having this forward position from ShoWTimE. I guess he can't be as aggressive, but maybe Lambo might struggle a bit more to take some fights himself. We'll see how he uses that new kind of location that's no longer ShoWTimE's. Stalkers do have sentries to back them up. We're going to hit some force fields here. Not sure how much I really like it. A few Zelds running in the pictures. There are a couple of Archons. Super battery activates to try and keep them alive, but doesn't last long enough. We're recalling over here, but ShoWTimE's just going to end up tapping out. GG. Lambo ties the series 1-1.
What a moment, and I think ShoWTimE will really look back at that moment where he went with that forward blink after he potentially thought this game is over. I've done it. I have stabilized another big swarm, or I've survived another big swarm attack, and at this point I can blink forward. I can hunt down these Hydras, but all the links show up. There were still a couple of Banelings in the mix. Fantastic game, and ShoWTimE did get those Archons towards the end, and I would have loved to see them indeed a bit earlier, because at one point this wasn't about the Hydras anymore. It was so much more about the Lynx getting great fights against the Stalkers than it was about the Hydras. And if you then indeed have 3 or 4 Archons in the mix, I don't want to say the Lynx are going to suck, but it's going to be a whole lot more difficult for those Zerglings to get phenomenal engagements.
Absolutely. I mean, there was just such a long time where it really was, like you say, about the Lynx. These were the Banes that went back and forth a few times over, deciding where they wanted to go. Yeah, this is one of those moments where it did kind of get scary on both sides at different points, right? I mean, just chaotic fights happening from multiple angles, reinforcements coming in, sometimes good, sometimes bad. Yeah, man, what a game. As this series ties up 1-1, and absolutely puts us in a very fun position. Tropical Sacrifice up next as well.
Lambo's going to feel really good about that game because he probably feels like he dodged the bullet there. Because it wasn't one of these games where the first attack or the second attack was devastating and he knocked ShoWTimE back to being a 3-base Protoss, and all that ShoWTimE could do was camp near batteries with a couple of Stalkers. No, some of these fights, even away from the cannons and batteries, were not looking all that hot. And if you're then not transitioning as a Zerg, because Lambo probably felt that that would take way too long, he would lose way too much map control, and he would just die before he would ever get to that next tier of Zerg. If you still win a game like that with Hydra Link Bane, yeah, you feel really good. So this man is going to be absolutely flying right now on the top right side of Tropical Sacrifice, representing the Shopify Rebellion. It's Lambo.
In the bottom left from Team Big, it is going to be our Yellow Protoss ShoWTimE.
ShoWTimE does always kind of strike me as a very calm guy, so I don't think he'll be kicking himself too much for getting a bit carried away there. Maybe going for a forward blink or two that was absolutely unnecessary because it wasn't up to him to make something happen there. Of course, he didn't have the highest stack of Protoss army either, but he did have +3. That's something that Lambo was probably never going to get. And on top of that, that army near static defenses is supposed to be better than the army that Lambo was working with. So it was really up to Lambo to make a move, not really up to ShoWTimE. And then, of course, if nothing happened, ShoWTimE could have always transitioned and complement his army a little bit more. But I think he's going to be somewhat sad about it, but gotta shake it off. And ShoWTimE is obviously an absolute veteran in this scene, so it happens.
It happens. We get to Tropical, and as a map as well for Tropical, I feel like this is kind of one which can go either way as well. You can get your 4 bases up kind of nicely. You can kind of play aggressive if you want. Yeah, you've got to go up some ramps, but sometimes ramps can be your best friend as the Protoss who doesn't necessarily want to push up, but you just want to kind of sit down them and sort of say, hey, look, you can't get creep out here. You can't get down the ramps very easily. You can really play around that a lot. So let's see if ShoWTimE does just want to play Stargate and Oracles again. He's one of the players who I feel like probably switches it up the least sometimes, right? If he's really just comfortable in a style, he will triple Oracle all day long.
He can do it for 3 months straight.
Yeah. Exactly. I actually think the last time I casted Lambo ShoWTimE in a best of 5, he just 5 games in a row went triple Oracle, exact same build, because why not? It worked.
Yep, if he feels that it's just a dance of execution and he feels that he's the better dancer that day, yeah, you don't need to switch it up. You don't need to make the games awkward for yourself and complicate timings by throwing in Dark Shrines and Twilight or Resonating Glaive builds. If you just feel that it all comes down to execution and you feel like you're the better player, yeah, you don't have to switch it up. I'm a bit surprised by this Cybernetics squad being right next to the gateway. I always kind of hate that because then if you would get rushed, you can't really pop the unit in between the buildings, right? So obviously ShoWTimE does this for a reason, and I know a lot of world-class Zerg players and Protoss players do it. Zergs when they play Protoss as well, but I always find this kind of scary because I'm like, man, just link floods can actually become very difficult to deal with when you wall off like this.
Absolutely, as this Adept is going to get through, and we'll grab a single Zergling to begin with, and is looking for more. Obviously, quite a lot of hits on it, but should be able to regen some shields now. Generally hits its power spike when Adept number 2 shows up, so they can one-shot some drones or lings, whatever they can get in reach of. As Lambo is making quite a few lings here as well, so really prepping to just deal with the double Adept.
Yes, we had 5 links out, and he's making 6 more, so he's going up to... I was not sure if they popped. It's up to 9 links, he lost 1, so I guess it's definitely nothing aggressive, just making damn sure that these Adepts are not going to be too successful. Last game we lost the drone, and oh no, 1 drone just popped, but ShoWTimE mistargeted actually. ShoWTimE could have absolutely picked off the drone there. I think he couldn't believe how lucky he got. He's like, oh, a drone just hatched, but didn't expect it, shot at the Ling instead and couldn't get it. ShoWTimE really wants, Lambo really wants that low HP Adept. And he does get it at the cost of just a couple of Zerglings. There is 1 probe there that's a bit exposed, but the Oracle will keep the probe safe.
Yeah, a couple more of those lings being shaved off as the 3rd Nexus gets to go down from ShoWTimE, and he continues his prep into what we expect is going to be very similar to what we've seen before, as we've mentioned. And again, Lambo, just that Evo chamber coming down, probably looking toward that melee upgrade, getting those lings online. The big question is probably going to come off the lat tech. Are we going to see a Hide Den again? Are we going to see just more Ling Bane? Is there another tech route he wants to take? We'll be finding out.
I don't know, maybe he felt that the Hydras were going to be good on a slightly smaller map. This map obviously is a bit bigger again. Maybe he's going to be slightly more comfortable with the Roaches. Could just be some good old Roach Ravager Bane, something that Lambo's obviously quite fond of. And he can stick on that comp for a very long time. And there is the Roach Warren. Like maybe if you go back on like a waterfall or something, I'm not totally sure about the map order. I know we looked at it earlier, but I don't know, we were talking about how handsome ShoWTimE is or something. But maybe on another small map, there's a chance that we're going to sneak out a Hydra build again. But I think on the slightly bigger maps, we're going to rely on the more solid Roach. ShoWTimE is switching it up. For the first time in this series, there's our +1, that's normal. But it's charge before blink. Robo as well, that's going to give us a War Prism. And now it really all comes down to how well will Lambo scout. Is Lambo on autopilot today? Is he just going to go up to 68 drones thinking he's going to be okay? Or will he hold on spending some of that money, spending some of that larva until he's damn sure that, wait a minute, this isn't actually what I think it is, and then he can still build some Roaches at the absolute last moment. having to deal with these Zealots. Because if you have 0 Roaches and 8 Zealots and 2 Archons show up, well, it's kind of game over.
Yeah, it kind of is. As the Prism's about to pop, it is going to go out, and it is currently going straight in between all of the vision. Did that Link see it? Okay, one Link did just see it. A little bit further north than he might not have done. Obviously, does he realize it? And 40 Lings were already on the way. Are we going to build some Roaches? More Lings?
A lot of Lings. I mean, obviously, that's fine if it's just a couple of Zealots. We have 2 Lings being annoying in the top left side, but it's not just a couple of Zealots. We're going to have Archons, and just Archons can get some phenomenal traits with a little bit of Prism Micro. You can already shave off 10 Lings in no time, and if you then show up with 10... Oh my goodness, no, he's building a drone. Lambo cannot build more drones after this. Oh my god, he's building 5 more drones. I think it's going to be paying... Oh, he's building 8 more drones. What's happening?
Yeah, he's going to start Roach speed as well, so it's just more investment. Aspire, stop, please. Some Roaches are finally on the way up, but perhaps way too late. The Zealot Warp is going to be happening in a moment. Lambo still doesn't know where this Prism is at.
Going to be a lot of Zealots too, man.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to go in a second, and this at the very least is a dead base from Lambo, like that 4th base or so. Depends what ShoWTimE wants to focus. Find out very soon as the Link counterattack realizes maybe he's warping in across the maps, but there's going to be Oracles here. The battery might go down, but you're going to lose a lot of Lings, and that's even less to defend on the other side. And here's your 4th base just getting slammed into by Zealot Archon. I mean, I guess the good news is if you get to the Spire, then brilliant, but getting there is going to be really tough.
He's going to drop at least 1 Transfuse. He's going to drop a 2nd Transfuse. The Archons are going to run towards the Prism. Kind of a hectic fight in the end. The hatchery does go down. Queen's going to try to pick up the Oracle. 1 Archon falls against Zerglings there at the bottom of our screen. And look at the amount of money that ShoWTimE was sitting on there, by the way. That's would have been another potentially 10 or 11 Zealots. I'm a bit surprised how ShoWTimE played all of that out. Sure, getting the hatch kill is big, of course, on this level. Knocking the Zerg back to 3 bases. That's absolutely fantastic. But I actually think ShoWTimE could have found even more success there than what they actually got in the end.
Just felt very slow to get going, and the Prism was so far back. Maybe he felt like he was leaving the Prism back for warping, but then the Archons were caught, and so you had to bring it forward, misses the warping for a while.
I think that's what happened exactly.
So, yeah, just leaves you in a pretty tough position where, yeah, you got to do something, but you've already gone past the point where any decision can be the best one. Meters are on the way up, so we're going to get those going, and that's obviously going to be great. Shut down that Prism play straight away, and anti-air right now consists of, what, a couple of Archons. We do have the Stargate, and we are building Phoenix, so ShoWTimE is aware, and he is prepping to deal with Mutas. That's good, because obviously otherwise this could be really bad, and he even confirms the Mutas popping as well, so knows it is a serious threat. He can keep building the Phoenix.
Yeah, we're already building 3-4 cannons, couple of batteries. 2nd Stargate goes down immediately. I would love another pylon there, by the way, ShoWTimE. If you're going to build 2 Stargates next to each other, and you don't have Blink done yet, but your Blink is being researched there as well. If you lose that pylon, you're in all sorts of trouble. At the same time, ShoWTimE is going to try to find some success himself with a few Zealots in the main base of Lambo, so we're going to get some good old picture-in-picture action. Muda's going to town on a couple of probes, shield battery overcharge, trying to make the difference. 1 Phoenix flies straight into the Mudas, but there is always an overcharge to save the day somewhere. Phoenix count is now at 2. Muda count will start dwindling real quick, and I have the feeling that once Lambo sees that there are this many cannons and already a couple of Phoenixes, I think these are the last Mudas we are going to see.
Absolutely, and they're actually kind of dying off as well, which is a shame because it means you just can't keep them up for later in the game, bring them back as a bit of a surprise. So we continue to hunt those down, and what, 3 meters left? Oh, meters, the Phoenix dodging back when it maybe didn't even need to. Transfuse at the very end here, but another Phoenix shows up. Oh my goodness, it does feel like they could have died.
Yeah, but it's nice, I guess, to have a couple of Mudas in life for Lambo, because then you can keep taps on the Prism, right? So for Lambo, that's a very big deal, and for ShoWTimE, he probably thinks like, well, 3 Mudas are not going to kill me. No, but they might actually kill your Prism a bit later. Spicy game, as Lambo is now maxed out, but it's obviously not the most well-tacked up Zerg army of all time. But these Lings and Banes do have +2 melee, and we know what that's capable of. Can we take a look at that 4th base of ShoWTimE? Yes, okay. So we have not too many static defenses here, right? Like maybe if Lambo goes right here, right now, it's a lot of Archons. It's a lot of beefy, high HP Protoss units. But I think the longer Lambo waits, the worse it gets. It's kind of now or never when it comes to this attack.
Absolutely, the Disruptor is going to get to go off as we have Archons continuing to tank. The Banes just haven't really found anything, and the Lings are struggling to get anywhere as well. The Roach Ravager numbers still look good, but they disappear so quickly against Archons and Immortals when they're microed by a Prism. All that static defense in position, and ShoWTimE makes it look easy as he turns this around with so many units left over.
That was not easy, man, because Lambo was pretty much maxed out, and ShoWTimE was nowhere near maxing out. That was an absolutely phenomenal trade by ShoWTimE. Did lose one of those disruptors early on. Lambo now goes back into the Munas, but that feels like a desperate play to me, because I do think that second Stargate finished up. Can we just confirm that? Yeah, it did. I have a hard time believing. Like, obviously, if there were no cannons and batteries anywhere, I'd be like, yeah, why not? Maybe you can get on top of the Stargates, or maybe you can outmaneuver the Stalkers that do have Blink and +2 attack. But it's about the cannons and batteries that are not going to make these Munas very effective at all.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You said it best. Desperation move, right? There's already a couple Phoenix on the map. It might be a surprise, but there's just so much preparation, and the Prism once again seems as though it's going to get past the Mutas too, so it can cause some chaos. And there's one Phoenix at least is going scouting, but like I said, there's another couple that are around elsewhere, so yeah, ShoWTimE is looking pretty decent. We'll see if Lambo can turn it around. He's going to need magic with these Mutalisks. We do have ShoWTimE established in the 5th base, and that's obviously unprotected, but you need more than just cancel on the 5th right now.
Yeah. And Lambo knows it too. But the one thing that the Mutas could maybe do is drag this game out. And if that's what Lambo wants to do, that's fine. I mean, that obviously looked quite feisty there. For ShoWTimE gets decent value. That's a slow warp, and I'd go for the Stalkers there. Killing 3 Stalkers is actually pretty decent value. So a little bit of a mistake by ShoWTimE, who's actually ending up losing a decent amount of probes to these Mutas. Well, these Mutas are already finding a little more success than I expected them to find. Single cannon gets picked off, and that slow Stalker warping was very sloppy. Otherwise, I think this wouldn't have looked like this. In the end, the Mutas will probably end up falling, but not before grabbing probably a couple of additional workers and at least keeping ShoWTimE pinned back to his side of the map. And Lambo feels that he has bought the time to fire up that Hive now.
Yep, Hive will be on the way. The Mutas continue to come around. Still an expensive endeavor. Yeah, 14 probes, but every Muta will go down here as they get completely wiped out. And that bottom base of ShoWTimE was protected by the ground army. This is where we see if Lambo did enough. I feel like no, because ShoWTimE is almost maxed out on a lot of high-tech units. I feel like he's going to need to mess this fight up big time if Lambo wants to win it.
You feel this is an ultra game for Lambo, or do we just want to get a couple Vipers? Like, what's the point?
I don't really know. I feel like maybe it depends how this fight goes, right? Or if he can get that base. I mean, at this point, it feels as though going ultras, it doesn't feel like he has enough to go ultras with, right? He doesn't have any momentum to go ultras with, so maybe some Vipers. I don't know if there's any good choice, really. I really just feel like this army of ShoWTimE is really terrifying.
I think an Abductor 2 on Disruptors is always nice to make your Roaches and Raptors just be able to stand there, hold the line, and actually deal some damage. And sometimes Blinding Cloud can be very sick on these big, beefy Protoss RA units, because they can all be very derpy, right? It's like, oh no, we're all affected, nobody can fight, and then they keep on move commanding, and you're kind of just busy correcting them all the time as a Protoss, so wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't hate an Ultralisk Cavern either. I think it can be somewhat decent, but obviously this game needs to go on for a little while longer for that to come into play.
Yeah, these Archons just chasing this army down as well. The Disruptors may be a little bit exposed, but they're gonna get massive shots off. Lambo just feels like he's turning around to commit for the game. It seems like he's trying to go Great Aspire. He just obviously feels a bit lost, I think, after earlier things didn't work out. ShoWTimE is going to get another win on the board. 2-1 and 1 map away from a top 3 here in the Shopify TSL9. Would make it a great run for him.
Looking very good, especially since we thought maybe there was more potential with the Zealots and the Archons, but of course at this level, just knocking the Zerg back to 3 bases, that will already feel like a massive victory for ShoWTimE. As we're going to take a look at one of these Novas, I believe, that came in from the high ground and all these morphing Banes. Got the, actually, wow, that's sick by Lambo. He cancelled all of them himself.
Yeah.
Immediately. Sick.
So coming in, nice little response
so
from him.
Fast.
Doesn't really change much though, right? You get refunded either way.
Kind of sad when that game ends, right? Because the high finishes up. He fires up Adrenal Glands. He fires up +3 melee. He fires up a Great Aspire. And 2-3 seconds after all those very expensive upgrades and buildings are on the way, the game ends. And obviously, I know Lambo was in a very tough spot, but that always still kind of sucks, right? Because then you feel like you do make it up to tier 3. You do still have some resources. It's just, I think at one point as a Zerg, you kind of feel like you're running out of options to deal damage with that kind of a unit composition. Like, if there is one cannon, one battery somewhere, tiny bit of a wall off, yeah, you can break down some walls and you can get on top of probes, but it did feel that ShoWTimE truly stabilized and lived up to his name of Mr. Mauer.
Yeah, the defense was pretty darn good. The reinvestment into Mutas we maybe thought was actually worthwhile, but again, just wasn't quite enough. We're going to take a break and see if ShoWTimE can round this out when we return. Welcome back as we are in the midst of Lambo versus ShoWTimE here in Shopify's TSL9. The games have been pretty darn good, Roddy. Very fun, very back and forth, especially that game 2, definitely the highlight of the series so far.
Yeah, it was really hard to call, and those are the favorite games where they start battling at minute 7. They're still battling at minute 15, and we don't know who's going to win till the very end. For Lambo, though, this is a big moment. He needs to win the next 2 games in a row to make it into the upper bracket final to have a little date with a guy called Cyril, who managed to win our first series of the day. For ShoWTimE, obviously, this will just make the already very impressive run even more impressive. I mean, defeating Neep, defeating Maro, defeating Elaser, adding Lambo to that list. I mean, this really does give me 2016 ShoWTimE vibes.
No, it kind of does, right? Just having a great run, looking good, and confident macro games as well. Really being able to just kind of come through and say, hey, look, I'm one of the very best here in Europe. I really do deserve to be top 3 of a tournament like this. Yeah, I love how he's playing it as well, man. It's just so fun to see him just find his style he's so comfortable with, cranking it out repeatedly. To me, that's the best kind of ShoWTimE, just well-refined, continuous play. Let's see, though, in the bottom left, if we can bounce it back in this series. Our purple Zerg from the Shopify Rebellion is Lambo.
In the top right side of Data C, we're looking at the main base of the man who's up 2-1, representing Berlin International Gaming. This is ShoWTimE.
We get Data C, which will be the largest map of the 2 remaining. Inside and Out, I believe, is map 5. So that's what we're kind of looking at here in terms of if we do get to that 5th game. This one, Roddy, Data C, is Lambo's favorite map, he said in the hot seat questions before we kicked it off.
Yeah, but I think if he talks about favorite map, he thinks of ZVT. I don't think he thinks about oracles flying around on Data Sea, but this really is a good map. I think the very first week that I actually got to play on these maps, I looked at it, I was like, I think this is going to be the new 2K atmosphere. You just kind of look at it immediately like, yeah, I can see that this is just a good, fair, competitive StarCraft 2 map where there are many different ways to play. You can hide some stuff, you can be cheeky. I like maps with Vespian guises, you know, the rich ones, because they can really spice things up as well when it comes to certain phases of the game or even very early on and do something extreme. It's a very solid map.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. Is just have that probe on a little bit of a wander around there to start us out. Hatch, gas and pool, all coming up. No surprises just yet. And our picture-in-picture, track 2 overlords at once. That's the production value we need, Roddy.
10 years ago, if you'd have told me I could look at not one but 2 overlords in the first 2 minutes of a game of StarCraft 2, I would not have believed you, Roddy.
Oh, this is how we progressed. This is what it's come to as our probe gets nibbling.
Kudos to like Indian map, you know. I don't know who's the lead observer. They take alternate roles. Sometimes, you know, Indy takes the lead. The next game it's Mappa the lead, and the other guy focuses on the picture-in-picture. Imagine you're the guy who's on picture-in-picture duty. You could take it easy in the first 2-3 minutes of a game because you're like, there's nothing happening. But no, they're on it. They're following overlords.
Yeah, they control shift that overlord real good, man.
These guys are just not taking any breaks. Hey, that's a lot of links. No.
Yeah.
What is happening here, mate?
He's just making a lot of links, huh?
Very early, like it's way before. Can we take a look at the wall off of ShoWTimE? I would love to see the wall off of ShoWTimE. Okay, it's a good wall off, but this is a link flood or something.
Yeah.
Like this cannot be anything else other than a link flood.
Yeah, Lambo did say a little bit. Oh, with the drone pull?
It's way more. It's the Armani.
Wow. Okay. Well, let's see if this can work out. Obviously, as we get going across the map.
This is one of these builds that either looks fantastic and broken, or the Protoss builds a shield battery and it looks absolutely horrible. Now, if you don't scout this as a Protoss and you don't have a shield battery, is there a way to hold? I think it's all about getting like the Adept Shade off and getting a full wall off, right? You need to re-wall. First-person view Lambo is cool, but I'd kind of like to see first-person ShoWTimE, but it's too late for that. So let's just go ahead and see how this battle plays out. Here come the drones. It's all about getting some sort of a wall off. Is ShoWTimE just that here? I feel every single time I've seen this scenario, the Protoss is just straight up dead.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of probes that can pull the fight with this one Stalker, but the Adept's already down. We have to start building a new one. The probes come in for a pretty decent surround. I mean, the drone's obviously hitting the battery. Extra lings showing up. We are getting rid of some of these lings. 7 workers down on each side. Now ShoWTimE's losing a few more, but there's one Stalker.
You can wall off.
Yeah, the Oracle's here as well. The Oracle's going to clean up so much. Do we lose too many probes? I don't think so. The one Stalker
we have lost too many probes, I think. Because we're going to lose a few more, and the Oracle is going to run out of energy. I think by the time that this is all over, ShoWTimE is going to be left with just 4 or 5 probes. It's 12 against 10 right now. So it's like ShoWTimE got an economic lead, does he though? Now we do indeed have a little wall up. We have the Adept, we have a shield battery. I mean, if ShoWTimE can limit it, okay, Lambos is gonna go for the battery, but he doesn't quite have enough links on the other side of the wall. This is crazy. We have a battery overcharge. We have a second Oracle. Is this actually a hold by Mr. Mauer?
It might be. I mean, we've got a gateway that can warp in now as well once he gets some money back on track. No gas on the natural is the problem. He's got 1 probe man and gas in the main base, and the Oracle chipping through more lings as these lings want to try and get that gateway, of course. And that is a wall off that ShoWTimE might just have to plug, and that's a lot of money when you're only on 11 probes.
This is so cool because now we're 5 minutes into a game and it's 11 against 10 workers. Lambo had a 3rd hatchery, by the way. He cancelled that 3rd hatchery, right? That's all just in case, I guess, the Adept was there scouting it and stuff, but I don't think that even really came into play. But yeah, this now has to be very good for ShoWTimE, actually, because he's got 2 Oracles. The Lynx can't do anything. I have never actually seen somebody defend that without the shield battery being in place immediately. The Oracles are going to be forced to turn around one more time. ShoWTimE will end up losing his gateway. I just think that the biggest advantage right now are obviously these 2 Oracles. It will make A, sure that ShoWTimE cannot die, and B, it's going to force Lambo to build Spore Crawlers. And imagine how hard it is to go up to 3 bases now, right? Like, you don't have a single Spore, you don't have too many Queens. These 2 Oracles will just gather up energy over time. As soon as ShoWTimE is a little bit richer than he currently is, he's going to make Oracle number 3, perhaps, number 4. And how is Lambo going to be able to secure another base?
Yeah, I don't know, man. The Oracles, to me, are just going to be way too good in this situation. Obviously, they haven't really had energy, but I believe we're only on 1 queen. It's like ping-pong between the main and natural, trying to figure out where it wants to be. So 1 queen has its hands full. And yeah, ShoWTimE just not going to go in. I mean, that's really a godsend right now for Lambo.
Man, what a hold. That's actually crazy that ShoWTimE managed to hold that. Like, I thought once all the links were through and the gates were open, I was like, this is just never going to stop. More and more links. But he did such a phenomenal job in not losing everything at once and then putting the Stalker back in position. Obviously, that shield battery finishing up was absolutely fantastic. And perhaps Lambo could have been a bit more decisive, because first he went for a battery, then he started fighting the probes. Later on, he had another attempt at the battery. But I guess it's one of these moments where either you go all out for the battery or you just kind of ignore it and try to kill stuff in the main. But yeah, if ShoWTimE has all of his probes in the natural, what are you really going to kill in the main? I think the Nexus would take way too long with just that amount of links. Just a sick hold, man. Well, absolutely unbelievable play by ShoWTimE.
Yeah, no, I mean, you said it best, man. I mean, how do you hold that without a battery? Well, apparently that's how. And it was so many things at once, right? Just having to pull the probes down the natural. And you were right, at one point, the Ling's running in the main, you're like, well, he loses 5-6 more probes, and then, you know, he's half the worker count. Recovering from that is extremely difficult, but yeah, he didn't lose those extra workers, and now he's going to be on triple Oracle, so more pressure he can apply, and all this time, Lambo's losing drones. He just can't really afford to. Third hatchery, still not finished, and ShoWTimE getting up to gateways and just getting set back up again.
Imagine if you just open a stream right now, you're like...
7
minutes? 36 workers against 36 workers? Did I miss a patch or something?
Do we revert to Rings of Liberty?
Yeah, like, why are they expanding so slow? It's like, man, I was watching GSL the other day. They go up to 3 bases a minute, 4. These Europeans suck.
Oh, the Oracle's going to come in again as they, for a moment, I feel like we're thinking about the Queen. One Oracle is super low, gets out alive. And the Adepts protecting the third base, which the Ling's just not in good enough numbers to make a play on. ShoWTimE just maintains supply lead in this game. Twilight now on the way.
Still not as bad for Lambo as maybe I thought it was going to be at first, because I was like, man, you have 1 queen, you have no spores. If these oracles really want, they're going to knock you down 6-7 drones. And if you only have 24 workers to work with, you lose 25% of your economy. I kind of felt like, yeah, that's just game over immediately. I have a hard time believing that Lambo loves anything about this game, and obviously the Adepts have a lot of potential, but he's done a good job in at least trying to make something out of this game. And if we can just kind of keep up with ShoWTimE, we've got +1 melee. Our queen count probably at 5 now. Is that correct? Observers, how many queens do we have? See another queen on the way. Yeah, the 5th one is on the way. Maybe, right?
Yeah, I can see it. ShoWTimE actually cancelled, started Blink to go charge instead, so obviously feels like he wants to try and pressure and keep pressure up. Just try and keep Lambo, I guess, kind of on the tail end of things in this game, so just going to see the drones mining away what they can. And obviously our Oracle's still hunting for damage right now that we've established that third base from ShoWTimE. All 3 of them are back on the hunt, but we're just building up to that gateway count, the charge, the +1, and really hoping that Lambo doesn't do crazy on the drones, right? Doesn't go up to 70, 75, because then he might be in trouble again.
The fact that we go charge before Blink, though, that also gave me the feeling that there is a lot of potential for Lambo, because if you just have some Banelings ready, it doesn't really matter how many Zealots they have. Banelings are just fantastic defensively against Zealots on creep, with a bit of Queen support, with a bit of Link support. I'm actually surprised that ShoWTimE made that decision this time around, but if we just wait until we get Archons too, then I think it's obviously totally fine. But if we do something with only Zealots, I feel like that's a good way to potentially throw away a lead.
Yeah, if he just runs across the Zealots, runs into some Banes. Yeah, it could end very quickly from there. We are
and even defending is harder with Zealots and charge, because like Zealots, they charge forward, they clump up, and then it's like, okay, I found the Banelings, but I lost all my Zealots. We do go back to the Hydra, by the way. Lambo deep down inside a Hydra lover.
These Banes want to try and chase down some probes. In the end, the Stalkers will be here to help defend against this, so not really much gain. The Oracles, one will go down. Surely one goes down here. You're kidding me?
Are you kidding me, man? All 3 of them took a lot of damage there. All 3 of them low on HP. Lambo now goes double Hydra then. And I know sometimes that's on purpose, but I have a very hard time believing that with the current economy and the way that this game has gone, that that's on purpose.
I mean, what are you going to double Hydra and double upgrades quickly here? Oh, no Spore here, so these drones are going to go down. At the same time, obviously, the attack at the front is going to turn around because it's just not really a way to fight through Banelings with the Zealots. Well, now way to Blink, but 8 workers really hurts. Now Lambo at a deficit as he does go double upgrades, though.
He fires them up immediately, and it gives us the idea that this was indeed on purpose. I mean, that's something that you normally you see in games where the map is very small. You want to hit some sort of devastating timing. As we're going to take a look at the first-person view of ShoWTimE, where ShoWTimE just completely forgot about his oracles. And he's like, whoa, all 3 of them were rather low. And at this point, and the sickest thing is that they then turn around 10 seconds later and end up killing 8 drones, right? Definitely has not been the most fortunate series for Lambo so far. I do think we can say that. It's of course a game of skill, but sometimes there are a few little things that could go your way or they don't go your way. And I don't think Lambo has been very fortunate in his best of 5 so far.
Nope, those couple of units escaping low HP could have made a massive difference this game with what they did after. And ShoWTimE is straight as Storm as well this time as well, so obviously he just doesn't feel like he's got the momentum or the units to just attack and go and go. Obviously maybe due to the map as well and the layout. And so he's just going to go Storm. Storm's good against pretty much everything Lambo is building. Got to just babysit those High Templar, don't let Banelings roll into them, and you should be good to go.
I mean, if we max out Hydra, Link, Bane, there's always potential. But then I kind of think that at this point, Lambo needs a bit of help of ShoWTimE, right? We need ShoWTimE to do one of two things. Either overexpose his army, step too far away from the select defenses, and then Lambo can get a phenomenal fight against it on creep if Banelings come in from multiple angles, or ShoWTimE must do absolutely nothing forever, and then Lambo can maybe go Lurkers. You can even get the double Lurker upgrades, and then we still have a completely different game on our hands. Obviously, the scariest scenario for Lambo is the in-between, where ShoWTimE is just playing it safe, but is testing the waters, wants to make sure that he knows what Lambo is doing, try to force out a couple of trades. He's got the better economy once more, land a few good storms, don't take any damage, but if Lambo does decide to tack up, that's where ShoWTimE is going to try to end the game, and more often than not, that's exactly the conclusion that ShoWTimE will come to.
Yeah, Fusel's getting caught, these few Adepts. Don't really feel like they wanted to be there, but Adepts are pretty limited in their use at this point, but maybe would have been better a few minutes later, shared into a mineral line. It's not like ShoWTimE was maxed and trying to clean out supply, although I guess soon he will be. His bank is kind of huge.
Yeah.
And once he spends that, he's going to have a lot of stuff.
But I think he's reading the game perfectly, where he's like, you're just maxing out a Hydra Link Bane, aren't you? Well, I'm just gonna make as many cannons and batteries as I feel necessary, and as it's a nightmare. Like, this army of Lambo could be very good. Even against Storm, it could be very good if it comes in from multiple angles. But the biggest problem are just like waves of cannons and batteries. That's just where this composition of Lambo really falls off. 4 Archons derping a little bit there as they were on the wrong side of the Mauer, but they will make it home safely.
Yeah, I mean, we'll pick away at this wall for a little bit, but it's already been expensive for Lambo. It's already taken a long time. We've got a sentry here ready to pop a force field when it feels it's needed the most. Storm's just going to butter up those Hydras, make them easier to cleave through later, and now we are going to see the Archons again coming back. These Archons are just like desperate to go the wrong way, man.
Shieldbed reopen choices almost ran out, and now all these Archons being so far out of position is actually not that funny anymore for ShoWTimE, because this is kind of where he needed them to get a couple of hits up on those Banelings. I mean, Lambo's actually doing way better here than I ever thought he could, but it still might not be enough. We get a Nexus, but we're going to lose the majority of our Hydras, and Hydras are expensive units. If he was able to get out of there with those Hydras, get the Nexus, and maybe find a bit more success with the Banelings, be like, you know what? Maybe. Lambo's spending every single penny now on trying to rebuild Hydras. We're working on +1 missile attacks too. And if ShoWTimE doesn't have any Storm, like 25 Hydras would do fantastic against this army. The problem is, where do you find 25 Hydras if you're broke?
Yeah, you just can't really find them. I mean, breaking that base is so good because obviously the new base doesn't have the stacked defense on it, so it opens up future attacks, but not if you don't have units. He just lost too much in doing this, and now ShoWTimE just gets rid of one base, backs off himself, gives himself the time to get set up back over here, and yeah, I mean, it's even going to double expand, pop some minerals that he's got banked up a little, and just give himself 2 options. If Lambo wants to grab one, he can just play off of the other.
Before some of those final storms actually looked promising for a little bit, where you're like, whoa, are the stocks kind of stuck? Is this like one of these moments where the stalkers truly have the domino effect? If one of them dies, then suddenly like 6 or 7 die, especially if they're stuck and pinned to a wall or in between some mineral patches. But that's where the cavalry showed up. ShoWTimE, a couple of Archons to save the day, 1 or 2 more juicy storms, and it was not in time to save the Nexus, but it was in time to wipe out the entire army. And our lovely observer showed it there too. Lambo's lost over 5,500 resources more in this game than ShoWTimE did. And that is acceptable if you're the one that has a 20 worker lead and you've been up 2 bases, but that has not been the case at all this game.
Really has not been, as Archon's helping to hold the wall at the top of that ramp. And just going to be seeing more Lings, more Hydras, more Banes. Lambo absolutely stuck on just building more of the same, more of what he's already had. He's got nothing but lair tech, and he's got nothing but to try and attack one more time here, or a couple more times perhaps. As we started off, he's going to go up the right-hand side again. Yeah, maybe less stacked defense than before, but Archon's already ready to greet you. It's not looking good.
No, it really is not, but hey, we kind of thought it wasn't looking all that great on Moondens either. And suddenly Lambo did manage to find a couple of phenomenal fights. Like, if you don't have any storms, the Hydras can actually get really good fights against Archon Stalker. The problem is those couple of High Templars, those little purple boys in the back that are going to make their way, they will just force the Hydras to keep on running away. That's where the Stalkers get their extra shots in. That's where the Stalkers can blink forward to and shave off a few more of these Hydras. And Lambo's army supply is dwindling. It seems to be ShoWTimE that is going to advance into the upper bracket.